Welcome to the Sacred Journey podcast. I'm Elizabeth Marth Tarara, and I'm a certified conscious uncoupling and calling in the one coach, as well as a certified spiritual and emotional growth coach. And my purpose in this podcast is to shift the perspective on midlife changes being something of a crisis to the truth that they are a beautiful opportunity to awaken and a necessary part of our life's journey. I specialize in walking with women who are experiencing disconnect from themselves and who are facing life-changing experiences. And as hard as these situations can be, there is still the truth that these painful times can be the catalyst that can change our lives for the better. Change is what ignites the desire deep within us to reconnect to our true selves and our true divine purpose. It moves us to step up and live the lives we are being called to live, reclaiming yourself and reclaiming your life. So if you are hearing the call to walk this journey, keep listening, because I promise this is going to be good. And remember, life is all about the journey, not the destination. Hello and welcome to the Sacred Journey podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Marth Tarara. I am so excited to be bringing a second season of the Sacred Journey. And with it, I am bringing a new series. It is called the Self-Abandonment series. So as women in midlife, we, I believe, are very familiar with self-abandonment. What does self-abandonment mean? Self-abandonment is going to be a way that each of us expresses not listening to ourselves, not choosing ourselves, not advocating for ourselves. It's so important because so often we as women are taught not to listen to ourselves, not to listen to our intuition, not to listen to our heart. We are taught to listen to something outside of ourselves, whether it be parents, whether it be a teacher, whether it be a religious figure, right? We're taught this from such a precious young age that we don't necessarily know what is best for us, that somebody else does, something outside of ourselves. Even taught God outside of ourselves. Personally, I believe that God is both within us, always, as outside of us in every realm. Every way. Nothing separates us from God. And we self-abandon. When we know that something is right for us, when we know that something isn't right for us, we self-abandon often until we learn not to. We are conditioned to think the media, books, everything knows better than we do. So the point of this self-abandonment series is really to go through different topics, different ways that we self-abandon and how to identify that, how to become aware when we're self-abandoning. A lot of times our intuition, our knowing, our gut, our inner self, call it what you will, is showing up inside of us to say, hey, listen, hey, I'm showing up, I'm guiding you, which I call my intuition, my inner self, my inner guide, the inner presence, is from the divine. So whenever I have a knowing, that is from God, that is from the divine. When we can start to cultivate awareness around this knowing, paying attention to this knowing, paying attention to our body's physical signals, whether it is a feeling in our gut, whether it is a feeling in our heart, it's going to be different for everyone. It's learning yourself. It's learning your body signals. It's learning your mind signals. It's learning if you hear things or you see things or you feel things with your senses. Getting really clear on your responding, how you respond to outside stimulus, outside experiences. When we are cultivating that awareness, when we are in that awareness, it can be as simple as somebody saying, "What do you want for dinner?" And our immediate response sometimes is, "I don't know," which is a whole other thing of self-abandoning. We do know. We absolutely know when we take the time to connect with our knowing, with the higher presence within us. We absolutely know whatever it is because we're guided towards that. So what do you want for dinner? Well, I don't know. So take a moment, right? And this is so mundane and so simple, but it starts there. What do I want for dinner? What actually sounds good? What excites me? What lights me up? What feels like it would nourish my body? It might sound like a lot of questions to a simple question of what do I want for dinner? And I don't know, might be easier, but this is also where the topic of today, self-abandonment, which is the power of choice, how we so self-abandon in our choices when we don't really think about what it is that we want to choose. I don't know. It's it's a way of not having to check in with ourselves, not having to do the work to actually go deep to figure out what it is that we do want to choose. So when we're little, the little kids are such a perfect example of this. They know what they want. They want the sucker, they want the candy, or they want to run, or they want to climb the monkey bars. They don't always get to do what they are choosing because it may not be in the safest element for them. But we almost threw away the baby with the bathwater when we stopped believing that we did know what we wanted. At least the little child knows what they want. They have a connection to it. And what I've seen so often and experienced so fully myself is that connection goes, it fades because we listen to everything outside of ourselves. So when we're faced with a choice as simple as what do you want for dinner, we don't always know how to answer it. Now, maybe you do. Maybe that's not something that you have a problem with. But then when we come to bigger decisions of knowing what is actually best for ourselves, we don't always choose that. We'll self-abandon and choose what is best for someone else. Is there times and places to do that? Absolutely. I'm not really talking about those circumstances. And even when we are choosing what's best for someone else, we want to do it from a conscious place. We want to do it from a place where we're aware of what it is that's best for us. And we are consciously choosing to put that aside so that we can then choose for the other person's desires in a way that feels that that's divinely guided, that that's what we're being called to do. It's always about the connection, and it's always about awareness, and it's always about knowing what it is that is in our heart, what is in our knowing. With our power of choice that we've really given up so much because it goes on autopilot, especially if you are busy in your career, busy as a parent, busy juggling all of it. Our decisions, our choices, they can get made so fast that we don't even pay attention to it. And that's a form of self-abandonment. When we are so busy that we aren't even paying attention to what it is that we're deciding, we're not showing up for ourselves. We're not being there for ourselves. We're not putting ourselves first in the means of when we know that we are there for ourselves and we're counting on us, then we're not looking outside of ourselves unfairly, right? Like when we're getting what we need from our source, from our connection, knowing what it is that we need, knowing what it is that we want, knowing what it is that we're choosing consciously, then we're not expecting other people to do that for us and having unfair expectations, right? So when the idea of selfishness comes, which can also come, right? Because a lot of times as women, we are taught culturally, religiously, in the family to put our needs last, that we don't matter, which then also disconnects us from our choice, right? It's easier not to know what we want or just to go along with what everybody else wants than feel that feeling of, well, what's it even matter that I want because I'm not going to get it because I'm going to go for what somebody else wants. So that idea of coming back to what it is that we want and listening for that as we're growing our awareness. So my encouragement for you, for me, for all of us this week is to listen. to slow down, to connect first and always with the divine, with your soul self, with your knowing, and listen. It takes 2 minutes. I mean, I would encourage you to meditate and do this for much longer, but really it's a practice that can be cultivated throughout your day. When you have a choice that is really listening to you and figuring out what it is within you, the connection, and then the connecting with your knowing, and then growing your awareness of what's your heart leading to? What is it that I am wanting to choose? What is it that I am desiring? I believe that our desires are whispers from God. They're for our highest good. So if there's a desire that isn't necessarily going to lead you to your highest path or to your highest good, that's not a God whisper. That's not a divine desire. That's a ego-driven desire. You can trust your God desires. You can trust your desires when they're from the divine. And even the ones that are ego-driven, they're actually trying to tell us something too. So if we're desiring something that isn't necessarily for our highest good, for the highest good of all those around us, we need to listen to that. We don't necessarily need to act on that, but that desire is also trying to tell us something. Every desire that we have is trying to tell us something. And we get to choose whether we are going to pay attention to that, whether we're going to dig deeper, whether we need to get curious. If it's a desire that isn't, for our greatest good, then let's get curious about what the deeper desire underneath that is. If you're wanting to really get on a great exercise regime and get really healthy, and you have a desire for something that isn't healthy, then what's the deeper desire underneath of that? Right? Maybe you think that you want this particular food, but actually what it is longing for connection. So when we go deeper and when we investigate our desires, that also affects how we're going to choose. So when we're going to choose in a way that is for our highest good, in a way that feels good, that feels in alignment, meaning that it is within our value system, meaning that it is within the us that we're wanting to be, that choice becomes clear. Self-abandoning shows up so often in our choices. So this week, I'm encouraging you, me, us to really pay attention when we get to choose. Are we automatically making a choice? Are we connecting and becoming aware and listening to what our knowing is telling us we are needing and desiring? Are we able to take action in that place and make that choice? Or is there a different choice that needs to be made that might be more beneficial for others in that time period that we can make, and then come back and see what it is that we need? So we aren't self-abandoning. It's not about being selfish. It's about really getting clear on knowing ourselves so that we can give to ourselves, so that we can give to others, so that we can come back and give to ourselves and give to others. It's a complete cycle. We can't give what we don't have. Really getting tuned into ourselves, really getting tuned into what it is that we are desiring so we can make conscious choices around that, and really listening for the divine. I hope that this resonates with you and that you have a great week. I would love to hear back from you in emails if this is something that speaks to you. And I look forward to coming back in week 2 of the abandonment series. Have a great day. Thanks so much for joining me to explore this midlife journey together. Join me next week as we continue to seek within ourselves to find what we are really looking for, so we can awaken to all the bountiful possibilities that life provides, and then align with the beautiful energy of love within each of us. You can also connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. All of the info is in the show notes. And you can check out my website, sacredfreedom.life, where I have my blog, videos, book reviews, meditations, and more. And if you feel so inclined, you can book a complimentary discovery call with me to learn about how you can work with me on your own journey of awakening. See you next week.